Hi, I'm Priscilla. I am a knitter currently based in Wrocław, Poland. And today I'm going to be talking about my 3 finished objects, 3 whips, and 3 future cast-ons. So my first finished object is a gift knit for my father-in-law. This is a very popular knit. I'm sure you've seen it. It is the Zipper Sweater Light Man by Petite Knit. It is knit in a DK weight yarn. The recommended yarn, I believe, is Pure Gint, but I knit it in my favorite DK yarn. It's West Yorkshire Spinners, Blueface Leicester. It's so soft. I love it. I knit my Moby sweater with this yarn, and I just love this beautiful blue color. I knit a size M from my father-in-law. The sweater construction it's actually very simple. It is a top-down raglan, very simple, very straightforward. The only thing is this zipper, which is a new technique for me and actually made me quite hesitant to choose this pattern to begin with. But then I saw a YouTube video of somebody installing the zipper and it looked quite easy and straightforward. I don't have a sewing machine, so I was afraid that installing a zipper by hand would look messy and wouldn't be as stable. But actually, it turned out really nice and it feels really quite stable. The modifications I made were waist shaping decreases, just to give a slight taper decrease, because I saw on Ravelry some project photos were really loose and there seemed to be excess fabric at the bottom of the body. So I decreased on both sides under the underarms, decreasing 2 stitches on one side, 2 stitches on the other side for a total of 4 stitches per each decrease round. And I did that 3 times, separated by 10 rows of ribbing. And I think it just gives a really nice, subtle decrease that isn't too much. I'll have a photo of my husband wearing it, and I think the fit turned out really well on him. Hopefully it fits his father just as well. But I'm really happy with it. It was a fun knit, really not as challenging as I expected regarding the zipper. I will say, when I first installed the zipper though, I did have an initial challenge, which is that I installed the zipper a bit too close to the fabric. Let me try to give a close-up of how close I did it. So when I first tried zipping up the sweater, it did get caught in the fabric. And I thought I had to redo it, but then I had an idea to just do some surgical felting on the exact stitch that I kept getting caught on. So I just took a felting needle and I just kept poking at that stitch. And it was just like one V of a stockinette stitch. And then that felted down and now it just zips up really easily. So I'm glad that worked out. One thing that makes me feel confident about the fit, or more confident about the fit, is that last year when I was visiting my in-laws, I asked my father-in-law to give me a sweater that he really likes. And so I took measurements of the proportions of that sweater that I know fits him really well. And the sweater that I knit matches up pretty close. Another thing I want to say is, like, because the pattern is so simple and classic besides the zipper, I think it is important to choose a good zipper. This is the Petite Knit zipper that she sells, and I think it just adds a perfect little touch. Just to talk a bit more about the yarn, I bought this during my fall trip to Yorkshire, England, actually. So I bought the yarn there at Annie's Yarn and Crafts store. It was a really cute little shop, and the store owner was so nice. And yeah, I just love how it turned out. This is also a really nice, wide raglan detail I want to show. But there she is, my first finished object. Aloy decided to join me. My second finished knit is sweater number 29 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And I'm in love I love it so much. It is a saddle shoulder construction. So you knit it first by knitting these two shoulder panels separately, and then you connect them in the back by casting on these back neck stitches. And then I believe you make that trapezoid in the back and then pick up stitches here in the front for the right and left panels, and then join it together all in the round. That's her toy. I actually put it here to draw her into the frame, but now it's... All right, there we go. So I knit this using one of the recommended yarns, which is BC Garn Semilla Melange Gots in dark teal. And I held it with a new mohair for me, which is Pascuali Mohair Bliss. And I really love it. My favorite current mohair is Azir Silk Mohair. I think Pascuali Mohair Bliss is just as good, just as soft, if not softer, actually. I really love the yarn combination, and I love the fabric that it created. I love the color that it created. Overall, I'm really in love with this pattern because it just looks so much more impressive than it feels like it actually was. Because the cable is the same cable repeat all throughout the pattern. There's a lot of mindless knitting. It isn't actually as involved as it looks. And I really like the shoulder detail. That continuous cable that goes all the way down is a really nice touch. And it adds a little something to my wardrobe that I don't have. So I got the BC Garn Semilla Gots during my trip to Copenhagen last spring in a store called Boonstrik. It was actually on sale. I think I got 6 skeins for about 27 euros. So that's such good value for money. And the Pascuali yarn, yes, it's a more luxurious, more expensive mohair, but it's actually quite, you get a lot of meterage out of the 25 gram skein. I actually have a full skein left over because one of these balls goes so far. So it's 25 grams for 300 meters. And the nice thing about this mohair is that the silk core is dark, even though it's a dark color. So a lot of mohairs I see the silk core is like white, even if the color is dark, but this one is not. So I really like this. It's also really, really soft, really nice to work with, and definitely could be worn next to my neck, just like the Azir mohair. Because it is 300 meters for 25 grams, it is a thinner mohair. The Azir mohair is really quite fluffy. So in comparison, this is Azir silk mohair, and it is only 212 meters for 25 grams. And you can even see in the skein itself, it's just so much fluffier, has such a big halo compared to this. Azir makes the fabric plushy and there's a big halo, but this one's thinner, so just keep that in mind. But on the plus side, you get more meterage for the price, so it really isn't as expensive as I thought it would be. A few tips that might make the knitting process for sweater number 29 easier for you is on the gauge swatch. I was a little confused because the gauge swatch calls for 20 stitches and the instructions are 26 stitches. I didn't realize that was because in order to get 3 full cables, you have to knit the full 26, but you should only be measuring the 20 stitches. So I did come significantly under gauge, but it turned out actually fine. And because I was confused about the gauge swatch, I emailed my Favorite Things Knitwear, and to their credit, they got back to me in less than 24 hours, which was really great. And they explained the gauge swatch situation. So just FYI if you're gonna knit the sweater. Another thing I was confused on is when I was picking up stitches for the front sides of both the saddle shoulder pieces, on the first row where you pick up stitches, it has you doing increases and German short rows at the same time. And I could not make an increase on that very first row without creating a giant hole when I came back on the other side when making a German short row turn. So I tried that 3 or 4 times. I kept getting that hole. So what I ended up doing is for the first row, I just picked up that stitch as I was picking up all the stitches instead of making it an increase, and it turned out fine. Another thing is that some of the videos that accompany this pattern were in Danish, and for some reason it didn't have automatic English subtitles, which is totally fine. It's just good for you to know. And lastly, I found a tiny mistake in the pattern when doing the sleeve decreases. Instead of a knit 3, I think it should have been a knit 4 after a knit through the back loop situation. You can find the details in my Ravelry, but it was just a minor mistake, and I found it in both sleeves. So I think it's the pattern, not just me. But overall, I really recommend the pattern. I love everything about it. I love the yarn. I love the design. I think the only thing I might have changed if I knit this again is I knit a size small, but I might have knit an X small if I could go back in time, because I mean, I like the oversized look, but I saw how knitting Phlegm sweater number 29 fit her. And I think the saddle shoulder lends itself to a nice fitted look, and hers was a lot more fitted than mine turned out to be. So I like both looks actually, but I think the fitted look also looks really nice with this construction. Oh, I forgot to say, I absolutely dominated the game of yarn chicken on the sweater. I had to go into my gauge swatch and unravel my gauge swatch, and this is all I have left of it. At a point, I was afraid that I was gonna have to make this sweater cropped, which is not the look I was going for, because I wanted a classic, timeless, like fit and length for this cable sweater, but it turned out the perfect length, and it's just so satisfying that I used up almost all of the yarn. Okay, my last finished object is what I'm wearing right now. This is sweater number 18. This is my second time knitting this. The first time I knit it, I think 2 years ago, as a gift knit for my friend, which I knit in Pascuali Highland wool, held with Izerzook Mohair. This one I knit using one of the recommended yarns, which I bought during my spring trip to Copenhagen. So it's a really special yarn since I can't buy it here in Poland. It is the Hielholz Udspinderi Handverks Garn. Sorry for the pronunciation. But it is such a nice, rustic, plush yarn. This is an Aran weight held with mohair. The mohair that I use is a Folkalana Tilia. Both yarns are in colorway camel, and I bought this at Sommerflugen in Copenhagen. this project using the Danish yarn hand heel halts wood spindari. I can't pronounce that. It was actually like quite kind of like rough on my hands. I don't know if it's because it was rustic or the yarn weight's big and the needles are only 5mm. But I remember like just getting more like sore in my shoulder than I usually do. And it wasn't like a mindless knit that I was hoping for. It was definitely worth it because I love the feeling. It's just so plush and warm. And the other day I went to the grocery store in 0°C weather and I just wore this exact outfit and it was totally fine. This was warm enough for freezing weather. I knit a size small. It's perfectly oversized. This is really wide, but I love how it fits. One modification I did was I added in extra German short rows at the bottom. So you can see like there's some stocking knit stitch right before starting the ribbing. And I added in German short rows. So you can see how it gradually, the stocking knit panel gradually increases when you get towards the back. But I'm really glad I did that because as I was trying on the sweater, the back was higher than the front. And even when I first joined in the round, I noticed that the front panel was longer, which is strange. Like it's usually not like that. But even as I kept knitting down the body, the back was riding up. And now I think it's just perfect. Show you. So yes, I love the sweater. I don't have like a super, super warm sweater like this thick in my wardrobe. So I have a feeling I'm going to get a lot of wear. And also that rustic yarn, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name again, it blocked out quite soft in the end. So it's just, it feels really great. I love it. I do recommend the pattern. I think the design is retro, but timeless and also modern, like this kind of 90s look has come back into style. And you achieve a really nice texture design just with knits and purls. So it's really simple, but very effective design. The pattern offers both charts and written pattern. I just used a written pattern and it was simple and straightforward. It's not a completely mindless knit, but it's also not super complex. You just have to look at the written instructions for each row, but then each row is very easy and memorizable. So highly recommended. I absolutely love this pattern. Okay, now on to my 3 whips. And the first one I have for you is a good one. This is probably my most ambitious knit yet. This is the Christmas Past sweater by Dale Long. And it is so gorgeous. I'm so in love with these motifs and the yarn combination, the yarn colors, everything is so pretty. So this is a bottom-up Fair Isle design. It's knit in fingering weight. It's color work, obviously, and the armholes and neck is steeked. It is a drop shoulder, and there are written and charted instructions. I found out about this sweater pattern from Stocking Knit Bitch on YouTube, and I was really inspired by her sweater. Hers turned out really beautiful. And although this is such an ambitious project, I felt a bit of ease having seen her vlog, going through all her trials and tribulations, and kind of knowing what to expect. So I think the hardest thing about this project is, I mean, not only is it all over color work and knit on small needles and fingering weight yarn, but the pattern only comes in one size. It's the least size inclusive pattern I've ever seen. and I think it's something like a men's large. So obviously my size is a lot different, and I'm taking a lot of risk by doing some math, which is not my strong suit. So for the cast-on stitches, I basically used ratios. I used the ratio of the chest circumference of the pattern sweater versus my chest circumference, and doing the same ratio of cast-on stitches that he used. Now for the armhole and neck hole steek calculations, I'm going more off of feeling and also looking at other Ravelry users' experiences and the Stockinette Bitches experiences. So I know that like one Ravelry user said that there's too much excess fabric under the arm. So just taking that into consideration, I'm estimating smaller arm steek stitches. And then a lot of people said that the neck was too small. So I'm trying to make the neck steek proportionally larger. So it's been a really fun but nerve-wracking knit. Like if I knit this and the proportions are off, it's going to be devastating. But hopefully that won't happen, because just look at the motifs. So beautiful. So beautiful. I learned in the game of wool that these smaller fair out motifs are called Puries. They're so pretty, all of them. I love every single one, especially the trees. And I think the trees are the most satisfying to knit, especially when you've done that whole row and the tree appears. It's so pretty. And I'm using the recommended yarn, which is Jameson and Son Shetland Spindrift. And I'm using mostly the recommended yarn colors, and I'm glad I did, because they're not colors I would have chosen for myself. They're like more muted colors, but they work so well together. For example, look at this gray. When I was looking at the colors before ordering online, I was thinking, this is gonna look maybe weird. There's like camel, gray, brown, and yellow right next to each other. But the blue, the gray, when used next to these other colors, it pops out, and it looks almost like a blue accent. So I really love it. The only modification on the colors I'm doing is that each green is a different color. I think instead of using the recommended green artichoke, I'm using like 5 different kinds of green, which I really love. And using this sort of warmer green is pulling it more towards my color palette. I did miscalculate the number of green balls I needed, so I had to stop this project for about a month, and I've just picked it up again after receiving the yarn. I did have to get it shipped in from the UK and pay a pretty hefty VAT tax for both shipments. But yeah, I think because the pattern only has one size, it just leaves more room for error. So I just didn't calculate the number of balls correctly for my size. And unfortunately, you can see where I'm joining in the new ball of green yarn. Like here it is. You can see where it shifts, but it's not too bad. And I also don't mind like little mistakes like that in my hand knits. That's what makes it special. Each hand knit garment is a one of a kind, and each one has a little story. It has been a challenging process, but a really enjoyable one. I can't wait to finish this. I know time is ticking, so I really need to finish it before Christmas, but it's been so fun that it's been going actually pretty fast. My next work in progress is also Christmas knit, and as you can tell, it's just been crumpled up in my closet for the past year. I failed to complete this last year in time for Christmas, so I'm hoping I can do it this year. This is, yikes. Okay. This is the Arne and Carlos Mystery Christmas Stock knit along from last year. So obviously I dropped off the knit along. But first of all, I want to talk about Arne and Carlos. I absolutely love them. They are one of the most talented knitters on YouTube. I love their channel. They are so experienced. I think they worked like decades in the knitting fashion industry. And so they bring so much experience, so many techniques, and also knowledge about Norwegian knitting traditions. And yeah, I just love them. Every year they do a Christmas stocking knit along in which they reveal on a daily basis, I think like 6 rows of a charted pattern for a stocking. Each year the design of the stocking is different, and last year I started it, and then actually halfway through I decided to modify the design to make it Wrocław themed. So in the city that I live in Western Poland, we have over 800 little bronze dwarf statues scattered all throughout the city. It's really cute. They're all dressed up differently and doing different things. And I decided to modify it, putting in these little Wrocław dwarves. I found this charted dwarf on Chartminder. If you go there, you can just search and you'll find a lot of different charted motifs and patterns. So I like how it's turning out, but the reason I didn't complete it last year is because this pattern calls for an afterthought heel, which I've never done before. I've only done, the gussets for socks. And so as I was knitting the chart, I totally forgot to put in the scrap yarn. And then I think you're supposed to knit a row above the scrap yarn only on 2 needles and then continue in the round. But as you can see, I just knit a full tube. So after I realized that, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to frog all this work. So instead I just shoved it in the closet. But I'm really glad I didn't frog it because I recently learned that I can still save this stocking. There's something called a true afterthought heel, in which I can cut into the work even as it is now. So I don't know exactly how to do this yet, but I will try that and see if it works. So I'm just super glad I don't have to frog it, and hopefully I can save this in time for this year's Christmas. The yarn I use is, I just picked up this yarn from a local yarn shop. I couldn't find this yarn even on Ravelry, so I think it's not super popular, but it's called ISP Merino 100. It's an Italian merino wool yarn. And it's really soft, very smooth, like almost feels like a superwash yarn, which I don't think it is. Yeah, no, it's not. So if you want to do this year's knit along, I think Arne and Carlos are, of course, they're doing it every year. I think it's hopefully by the time I post this video, they'll still be doing it. They give you the pattern for free, but only for a very short window. After that window is over, it's going to be a pay pattern. Okay, my last work in progress is the Snow Season Stocking by Famke. It's a free pattern. And oops, this side. And this is what I've done in about 2 evenings of work, so it's going by pretty fast. It is a really beautiful pattern. I really love it, especially the fact that it has these cute baubles. It's my first time doing baubles, and I don't usually like baubles on sweaters, but I think for this stocking, it's so cute. And I really like this cable braid. It's really nice. And the way you do that is pretty simple, actually. So it's basically like you do a cable twist here, cable twist here, cable twist here, cable twist here, and then alternating it like that creates one nice cohesive braid. I'm knitting this in a special yarn. I got this yarn at last year's Wrocław Yarn Festival, and it is the first and only Polish yarn made from actual Polish sheep that I've ever seen. It is called Tatra wool. I think it's a very small wool company made from Polish sheep in the Tatra Mountains of Poland. Poland's not known for its wool, but this one looks really beautiful. It's really, really, really rustic. So I wouldn't make a garment out of this, but when I told the seller that I was gonna make a Christmas stocking, she was like, that would be the perfect thing to make out of this. Because it's so rustic and sticky and dry, the knitting experience hasn't been great. I think I could knit the stocking faster if it was like a nice smooth yarn that's easy to work with, but it's just requires a lot of muscle and it's not that easy on your hands. But I think because it's a Polish wool, it makes the stocking even more special and it will pair well with my Raffle themed stocking. So for my three future cast-on plans, the first one is the baguette jacket by Suin Kim, a Korean designer. And I bought this pattern last year. I really love the design. I love that continuous zigzag going down the sleeve. I think because it's a jacket or a cardigan, I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it. And I can't wait to have this jacket in my hands. So I actually started knitting this jacket 1 or 2 months ago using this combination of yarn. And I must have spent like 50 hours on it. This is actually a very challenging pattern because it is fully charted and you can't memorize it. Like it's a difficult to memorize pattern. So it pretty much every stitch you're looking at the chart itself. So it's painstaking, it goes really slowly, and it wasn't only until, 50 hours in maybe that I started questioning my yarn choice. I think this yarn goes really well with sweater number 18, but for the baguette jacket, it was like too thick, first of all. So once I put in the collar, I knew there's no way I wanted to finish this project with that yarn. Like that hatching cable pattern, it wasn't turning out that nice because I think the yarn was too thick. And also, this yarn is like a bit heathered. So, with that cable design and with the overall aesthetic of a sort of modern cable knit jacket, I don't think like a heathered yarn goes well. So I had to frog it, which is painful. And I used a yarn for this sweater, which turned out really nice. It was 100% the right decision. And I have ordered yarn in the recommended yarn, which is Lamana Como Grande. And I will be re-knitting that sweater in the recommended yarn. The next cast-on plan I have is a sweater for my 8-year-old nephew. He has noticed that I've knit a sweater for everyone in the family except him. So he's been asking me to knit him a sweater, which is really cute. I have a controversial opinion about knitting for kids. I don't like knitting sweaters for kids. I think, one, they grow up so fast, so it's a lot of work for something that they're only going to wear for a short amount of time. Two, they don't fully comprehend all the work that goes into it and they're not appreciative. Three, they don't know how to take care of wool garments, and I don't like knitting in superwash wool. So, for those reasons, I don't usually like knitting for my nephews and nieces. Sweaters, anyways, I do knit them toys, but I think for in this case, since he's been asking for it and I find that really cute and sweet, I am going to knit him a sweater. So I've been looking around for patterns. I think there's the Holger sweater by Petite Knit. Her patterns are always so clear and you just can't go wrong with them. But it's such a simple raglan top-down sweater that I'm wondering if I can find one for free. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. And the last cast-on idea I have is a ornament that I would like to self-draft. I have an idea for a dumpling or a pierogi ornament. This podcast has been very Polish, but I wanted to knit a pierogi for a Christmas ornament this year, and when I went on Ravelry, I could only find crocheted pierogies. So I do have an idea to knit a circular base and then fold it and then put a picot hem on the edge of the pierogi. It's mulling around in my head, so I'm thinking about self-drafting this and maybe making it into a pattern that I can share with other people. So thank you for watching my second podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any thoughts on what I've knit, what I have on my needles. Let me know what you're knitting, and happy knitting!